Tina brought up a really good point. Is each quint organized around a theme or around a learner expectation? And before the lower school, it wasn't. So what we found was that, we would talk about learner expectations in advisory, and some teachers did a really great job of talking about them, or felt really strong about one of them, and so did that one a lot, and others maybe didn't, or focused on a different one. There wasn't really any kind of organization, that's the organizational matrix, to how we hit the different learner expectations and to how we covered different social justice themes. So what we were finding was when seniors got to 12th grade, they had this kind of idea of what social justice was, but they couldn't really necessarily talk about too many specific issues or what the various components were, or they might have strengths in certain areas but not in other areas. So we felt it was really important when we were thinking about how the lower school curriculum would be organized that we sort of tried to make a unifying organization for this, for pre-K through 12. So that sparked the development of what we call the organizational matrix. It's a terrible name, but it's what we got, so we'll go with it. So what it is, you'll recognize the questions. You saw those in the learner expectation document. So those did not change. Those are the questions the focus questions for each of the grades for that entire year. That's kind of the big thing that they're thinking about and reflecting on through all of their work and their projects. But what you will notice is that each quint has a specific learner expectation focus, and it has a specific social justice theme focus. Okay, so for example, in Quint 1, we focus on collaborator, and in the social justice theme that ties in with that is human diversity and all the different variants of that. It does not mean that we only talk about collaboration in the summer and then we never come back to it. That would obviously be bad. That would be like doing addition in the summer and then you don't really need to know how to add anymore. So it doesn't mean that we only talk about these things in these quints, but it really serves as the focus for that quint, so that we make sure that we have a time that's devoted to really talking about it in depth, talking about what is a collaborator in depth, okay? So each theme does have a learner expectation and a social justice focus with some sub-themes under each social justice theme. So this is the organizational matrix. This is a very basic view of it. There's also a version of the matrix that is grade specific. So if you're a 5th grade teacher and you want to know, okay, how do I implement this collaboration and human diversity thing in my math and science class? We have some resources put together that are sort of organized into the different cells of the matrix that can help you in planning that, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into how to do that now. There is a tutorial of how to do that online, so that'll be something you can kind of look at when you get a chance. So that's sort of why we developed the organizational matrix. It's just a guide for how to plan our interdisciplinary units for each quint to make sure that we are hitting everything by the time they get to 12th grade. By the time they get to 12th grade, they should really be able to explain everything to you in this matrix without even looking at it. That's the idea, because if we're starting this in pre-K3 and they're cycling through these same themes every year, not necessarily the same content, obviously, but they're cycling through the same themes every year, they're going to get it by the end of 12th grade. Okay? So as I kind of mentioned, Quint 1 is the focus is collaborator, and then human diversity, and what does diversity look like? I mean, those are kind of a natural tie when you're thinking about what is collaboration. It's learning to work with a variety of different people that may be similar to you, different from you, and all the different aspects of diversity. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, obviously. There are other ways. We could have listed 40 things there. Those are just some main things to hit on. In the second quint, we start to look at researching, information processing, and what goes along with that is starting to look at some big global issues. So some of the things that fall under that are environmental issues, population growth, what that looks like here, what that looks like in other countries, Science, technology, how those things are evolving, how they shape our experience, how they, shape our future, not our future, but the children's future, career and what their life will be like. War and conflict, we haven't, I don't think, gone into that one too much. I think sometimes that might be difficult to tackle in the lower school, but I think it's something that over time we'll figure out how to better tackle that kind of theme. And then in the third point, we get into empathetic citizen, and the social justice theme that ties in with that is equity power, and I think that's a pretty natural tie, looking at how power leaves some people without access to a variety of things, whether it's economic, whether it's access to information. And so, parts of that are class, poverty, employment, access to education, urbanization, all those things kind of tie in. And learning to be empathetic to all of those different things. So we tried as much as possible to really tie the social justice themes to the specific learner expectation. And then in the fourth point, we get into being a problem solver. And the social justice theme there is problems of well-being. So health issues, personal health, disease, health care, substance abuse, crime, violence, family issues, all of those things really fall into that. So how do we solve these kind of problems that we see? Yes.
So for each social justice strand, like say for example in Collaborator you have human diversity, and that kind of moves vertically through the grade, that topic.
Yes.
So if I'm answering the question in kindergarten, who am I? I'm relating that. How do I relate that to human diversity? Like if my question is who am I?
So you talk about the different things that make up you. You talk about your culture, your religion, where the type of neighborhood you live in. Are you urban? Are you suburban? What ethnic background are you from? So you talk about things particular to you.
Okay.
That's what when I'm answering the question, who am I?
And then they discover human diversity through that, answering that question at that point. And then the 8th grade, the study of other social institutions, they answer that question by studying human diversity in probably a bigger scope.
And then the last point doesn't have necessarily a social justice theme tied to it, because the idea is that they would take that last point to look back at what they've sort of done in the past 4, and now think about, like Athena said, answering their essential question for their grade. So if they're a collaborator, that helps me to answer that. What did I do as an information processor that helps me to answer that? As an empathetic citizen and as a problem solver. They should have a pretty good picture by then of what, of who they are. And the learner expectation that ties to that is being a communicator or a knowledgeable person. They should be more knowledgeable about themselves by the end of the year. Okay? Does that help? Okay, so Dana's going to talk a little bit more about some examples.